Hey KM6 LYW radio viewers, we've got a new version of the DigiPi out. That's that little device right down here. That's the DigiPi. You might notice it's running on a new Raspberry Pi. It used to be just a Pi 0, now it'll run on a Pi 3 and Pi 4, and that is by popular demand. And this is all made possible by all the contributors at patreon.com/KM6LYW radio. You guys made all of this possible. This is just October. In fact, this is the first 25 days of October. I'm really overwhelmed with your support. It's really motivating for me to get this software really dialed in for the DigiPi project. And of course, this is the rest of the gang, all of the contributors right now at patreon.com/KM6LYW radio. It gets you access to the DigiPi software image and an early access to any software from KM6LYW radio. All right, so new release of the DigiPi. This is the management interface. For those of you who might not be familiar with it, the quick blurb on it, it's kind of like the ultimate hotspot, but instead of for voice modes for amateur radio, this does data modes for amateur radio. That includes APRS, AX.25, WinLink email, that's server and client, FT8 if you're into that. Those are added recently. Slow scan television, we can do that. Send and receive, PSK31, keyboard to keyboard, packet radio, and even CW Morse code this will do. So you don't need to learn CW, though I would encourage it if you get a DigiPi just like this. Now, historically speaking, up until now, the DigiPi always just ran on a really small Raspberry Pi Zero, and I still recommend this. The Raspberry Pi Zero is the bottom thing here. This one has a push to talk circuit that we built into it, so it's really just a Raspberry Pi Zero, a stacking header, and an FEPi Audio Z V2. There's a shopping list here on that website that I'm showing you at krager.org/digipi. That's the URL you want to take away from this. And that's a DigiPi. And it'll do all of those digital modes that I just mentioned on amateur radio. The new thing, of course, is the DigiPi now boots on a Raspberry Pi 3, which is what you can see there. It runs great on a Raspberry Pi 4. I was just messing with it. Of course, I don't have the luxury of having a lot of them, so um, thanks to the patrons, I have some extra hardware to mess with here. So the DigiPi, of course, it burns more power on the Raspberry Pi 3 or 4, but if you're in your shack or whatever, they are fast. So you can run things like the graphics intensive apps like FT8, Slow Scan Television, FLDigi. You might be surprised to see JS8 Call will run on there as well, and maybe that's installed. So this is the DigiPi running on a Pi 3. So I don't want to demonstrate all the features. I got a whole nother video for that, but I just kind of want to show you the basics. Right now, it's a digipeater for APRS. Because you just go to DigiPi on your web browser or your tablet computer or your phone, and I can digipeat a packet. I don't know if you guys heard that, but you can see my call sign at the bottom of the page there. So that's just the digipeater, and that's just scratching the surface of what this can do. Of course, this will do AX.25, email, PAT, RDOP for HF, global email system. Of course, FT8, slow scan TV, and FLDigi. So what I can do, instead of going through all of that stuff, maybe I'm just going to show you guys how FT8 works. I'm just going to press on right there. It's going to start the FT8 service. You'll see on the display here, it says WSJTX FT8, and it gives you a little URL you can go to. You can either go to that URL in your on your web phone, or your tablet, or your PC, or from the main page, you can just click on this little link here, which is the same URL. Click on FT8, and all you need is a web browser to access this. You don't need a Raspberry Pi. You don't need to know Linux. You don't need to know command line stuff, config files. This is a hotspot. All you need is a web browser, and that could be via Wi-Fi or even Bluetooth. We can do a lot of stuff. So right now we are monitoring FT8. This is just for fun here. And I need to put it on, I don't know, 20 meters. It's during the day today. So let's put it on 14074. That's where most people are hanging out. See if we can hear anybody. And I don't know if you saw how fast FT8 started up on this Pi 3. So on the Pi 0, it was pretty slow, but you could use it in the field, and you could have a Pi 0, burning almost next to nothing on power. But you can see how fast that frame decode was on the Pi 3 just now. And I don't know if I can make a contact here. I always want to play amateur radio while I'm talking to you guys. It's probably you don't want to see me operate FT8, but this is just a great example. And I don't know. I can enable the transmitter here, and I'm transmitting. I don't know if you can hear it or not, but I'm replying to that guy. Um, so that's just FT8, and that just scratches the surface. So the important thing to know is that's FT8 in a web browser. You can do all of that in your tablet as well. I mean, I can click. If you guys can see, I'm clicking on FT8. It's exactly the same thing. It goes to the exact same screen, and there's FT8 running from your easy chair in the living room, so you don't even have to be in your shack to be doing FT8. So that'll work on your tablet. That works on the screen here that you can see in my computer. I can do the exact same thing on my cell phone or mobile device for those of you in Europe. Let's just see the FT8 screen that's running on the virtual display inside of that Raspberry Pi. Of course, it's pretty small on the cell phone, but you get the picture. Hey, I'm doing FT8 on a cell phone in my easy chair in the living room. I do this all the time. You don't even need to be near the radio. So that's what the DigiPi is going to do for you. It's a hotspot for data modes, and it now runs on the Raspberry Pi 3 and Raspberry Pi 4. And this will be released on Friday. I need to see what the date is here. The 29th. Actually, I'm going to release this video then. So October 29th of 21, you've got DigiPi version 1.5 Mark II, which will run on all Raspberry Pi models. So just pick your Raspberry Pi and you're good to go. Hey, go ahead and check out my other videos on how to build this thing. It works on all different radios. Right now, it's hooked up to the 991. It'll work on an ICOM 7300. If you have a little push-to-talk circuit, which is easy to build, you can use a traditional FM radio, but if you have a USB based radio, all you need is the Raspberry Pi. Everything else is optional. The URL to take away here is Krager.org/DigiPi. Krager.org/DigiPi. And all of the instructions are here. The download link is here. In fact, I need to update the version number. Your shopping list for all your parts, if you need to build a push to talk circuit, it's not that hard. And here's a little wiring diagram if you need it, if you want to get a little audio card and a push-to-talk circuit for your little mobile rig, you can totally do that. That's what this Raspberry Pi is right here. Um, what else? The software configuration, you don't need to know configuration files and command lines and all that stuff. There's a single configuration page right here that you can fill out your call sign, your latitude, longitude, grid square, all that stuff, and it populates all the configuration files for you. Um, you control this over Bluetooth. You want to do like APRS Droid or something over Bluetooth, it'll do that too. You got the pairing procedure right there to pair your cell phone with the APRS server that's running on there. And then, of course, a bunch of screenshots and videos at the bottom of this page. Again, it's Krager.org/DigiPi. I'll put it down in the links below. Linux node services, that's one of my favorite things. In fact, there's a video game on there. You can actually play Zork or Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and run a node bulletin board server on this. It's all pre-configured, good to go. Slow scan television, I think I got a screenshot of that here. Hey, that's me sending and receiving video. This is me running FT8. This is a tablet on top of a 7300, this one right here, and then the DigiPi under that. And in this case, I was actually doing talking with CW Morse code with someone, all just by typing on the tablet. All right, so that's kind of the big dog and pony show for the DigiPi. Check out my other videos for a complete how to build this thing, how to configure it, learn more about it. What the purpose of this video is just to tell you that version 1.5 Mark II is now out, and it'll run on any Raspberry Pi hardware. It's by popular demand. That was the #1 request is, hey, Craig, make this work on a Raspberry Pi 3 or Raspberry Pi 4. Not so much because I need the performance, but I've got one in a drawer, and that's what I have. And, supply chain the way it is now, I understand. So here it is, DigiPi on Raspberry Pi 3 and Raspberry Pi 4. Not a problem. This is KM6LYW radio, and I'm clear.